Hey, welcome to Reddit Reveals. Get comfortable. This story is worth your time. The first thing I packed wasn't clothes. It was the envelope with my mother's handwriting on it. The one I kept hidden behind the breaker panel in the garage. Birth certificate. Social security card. Old bank info. Stuff you only touch when you're planning to vanish. I hadn't even confronted my wife yet. She was still inside the house, upstairs, humming while she got ready. That made it worse, that calm, careless hum, like she wasn't about to blow my entire life apart. She came downstairs in heels I'd never seen before. Tight jacket, hair done different, not work different, date different. She grabbed her keys and said, "I'm meeting a coworker for drinks. Don't wait up." No kiss, no explanation, just a sentence tossed over her shoulder like trash. I nodded. I always nodded. That was my role. But the second the door shut, something in me snapped clean, instead of bending like it always did. I walked into the kitchen and opened her laptop. She never logged out. Said passwords were a trust issue. I used to agree with her. I was naive. Her calendar was still open. 7 p.m. Dinner with Evan, HR. 10 p.m. Blank. Tomorrow morning, late start. I checked the messages next. I didn't even have to scroll. You're sure he won't come? He won't. He never does. Good. I want tonight to be just us. I stared at that last line until my eyes burned. I didn't scream. I didn't punch the wall. I didn't text her back, pretending to be calm or clever. I closed the laptop, sat down at the table, and made a list on a receipt with a dull pen. What do I actually own? What do I need? What can I leave forever? Quick pause. While you're listening, tell me where you're watching from. City or country? I packed fast. Not emotional, efficient. Clothes, shoes, hard drive. Cash I'd been stashing without even knowing why. I left the wedding album on the shelf. Didn't even hesitate. By 9:30, my car was full. Her car wasn't in the driveway. That was the moment I decided I wasn't disappearing temporarily. I wasn't going to crash on a couch or clear my head. I was done being the safe place she cheated from. I drove to a motel off the interstate, paid cash, and turned my phone off. The last thing I did before the screen went dark was set a scheduled email. Subject line, I know. It was time to send at midnight. Right when I figured she'd stop pretending she was with a coworker. Then I lay back on the bed, stared at the ceiling, and waited for my old life to officially end. With my keys already in my pocket and the engine still warm outside. I didn't sleep that night. Not even close. I lay on top of the motel blanket, still in my jeans, listening to the fridge buzz, like it was counting down to something. Midnight hit. I watched the minute change on my burner phone, the one I hadn't used in 3 years. That's when the email sent. 3 words. I know. C, no love, no long paragraph, no begging her to explain, just enough to make her stomach drop. The next morning, I expected 50 missed calls, maybe cops at the door, maybe her crying in the parking lot, something dramatic. But you know what I got? Nothing. That was worse. Not even a reply. Not even a, "What are you talking about?" Like she'd been ready for this. Like she'd already replaced me in her head weeks ago, and my email was just a green light to move on guilt-free. I bought a black coffee from the gas station next door and drove to the storage unit I'd rented under a fake name. I had the lease printed, signed, and filed by noon. Still no message from her. That told me everything. She was guilty, and she wasn't going to fight for me. Not even pretend. That afternoon, I hit every ATM I could find in the next 2 towns. Pulled out the daily max each time. The shared account had just over $8,000. By nightfall, I had 6 of it in a manila envelope on the passenger seat. If she noticed it missing, she never let on. Here's the thing. I wasn't angry. Not then. It was something colder. I'd spent 12 years building a life with a woman who saw me as background noise, something soft she could step over when she needed to feel new again. She used to say, "You're the only person who really listens to me." Now I realize she just liked that I didn't talk back. Anyway, around 6 the next evening, I stopped for dinner at a diner in North Carolina. And while I was cutting through dry meatloaf, my old phone buzzed in my jacket. I'd left it powered off, but something told me to check it. One text from her. It said, "Are you okay?" That's all. Not, "Where are you?" Not, "Please come home." Not, "I'm sorry." Just a fake concern, like she was the one who'd been abandoned. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I powered it off again and dropped it in the trash with the receipt. She'd made her choice. Now I was making mine. And I wasn't turning around. By the time I hit South Carolina, I'd turned into someone else. I don't mean in some deep spiritual sense. I mean literally. I had a new prepaid phone, a fresh debit card tied to an old account I opened in college, and the name Craig Denson on the motel sign-in sheet. Nobody had called me that in 15 years. It was an alias I used for a joke once when I didn't want to give a barista my real name. Now it was my lifeline, my escape identity, my reset button. I stopped checking the old phone altogether. I didn't even wonder what she was doing. I knew what she was doing. She was rewriting the story in her head to make herself the victim. That's how it works. The cheater always becomes the abandoned spouse the second they get caught. He just left. He disappeared. I don't know what happened to him. Yeah, because I planned it that way. What she didn't know was that I'd been stacking information for weeks. See, the co-worker wasn't just some guy from HR. His name was Evan Kelly, and he didn't work in her building. He didn't even work for the same company. He was some clown she met at a vendor conference in Atlanta. I found the hotel receipt weeks ago, tucked into the back of our filing cabinet. I only noticed it because I'm the one who always files the taxes, and it was out of place, listed under her name. But the billing address didn't match anything she normally used. When I looked him up, everything clicked. Their work dinners, her off-site meetings, the sudden interest in going to the gym 3 times a week. Evan was married too, by the way. 2 kids. Wife ran a photography business out of their garage in Knoxville. I found all of this in a single night once I knew what to look for. And still, I didn't confront her. I watched. I waited. I gave her every possible chance to come clean on her own. She never did. Instead, she doubled down. She got better at hiding things, changed the password on her iPad, turned off message previews on her lock screen. She even started leaving her phone face down on the nightstand. Like that somehow erased the lies living inside it. So I left. Not in rage. Not in tears. Just done. I made it to Charleston by the 3rd day. Rented a short-term place with cash. Small guest house behind a retired mechanic's home. Guy named Lester. He didn't ask questions. Just took the rent, handed me the key, and pointed toward the fridge like we were old friends. That night, I sat on the back steps with a cheap beer and thought about who I used to be before all this. Before I got so soft, so accommodating. I used to be funny, used to play music, I used to have a spine, but somewhere in that marriage, I learned to apologize for taking up space. And the second I stopped asking for anything, she stopped seeing me altogether. 2 days after I landed in Charleston, I checked my burner phone again, just once. 12 messages, 3 voicemails. The last one caught me off guard. It was her. She was crying, whispering, trying to keep her voice down. "I don't know where you are. I thought you'd at least yell or... I don't know, give me something. Curtis, please, I messed up. But I didn't think you'd actually leave." I swear nothing happened with Evan. We flirted, yeah, but it never got physical. I was lonely, but I never stopped loving you. Please, just call me back. She sounded like a child, like someone who didn't expect consequences, like a kid who got caught stealing and didn't understand why mom and dad were mad. I deleted the message and threw the burner into the ocean the next morning. Because even if she was telling the truth about Evan, and I doubt she was, the second she invited another man into that part of her heart, the marriage was over. Whether they kissed or not didn't matter. She chose him. She put more effort into covering it up than she ever did into fixing what was broken between us. And me? I was done patching holes in a boat she kept shooting holes in. I'd spent over a decade being her emotional punching bag, her soft place to land, her backup plan. Now I was finally something else. Gone. And I wasn't coming back. Not for her tears. Not for guilt. Not even for closure. Let her tell whatever story she wants. Let her play the victim. I knew the truth. And I'd rather start from zero than ever go back to being invisible in my own life again. 3 weeks went by, and I didn't hear another word from her. Not a text, not a blocked call, not even an email. That silence. It should have felt like freedom, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't mess with my head. There's a kind of crazy that creeps in when the person who swore they loved you doesn't even try to chase you down. Like, I vanished, and she just adjusted. I figured she'd at least show up at my brother's place, or call my boss, or pretend to be worried. Nothing. The woman I married had either moved on that fast, or she was too ashamed to go looking, or maybe she never really wanted me to come back in the first place. I spent my mornings walking downtown Charleston like I wasn't a ghost in my own life. Lester's place had a half-broken porch swing, and I'd sit there with black coffee, just thinking. Not even about her anymore. About myself. About the version of me that let this happen. Because, let's be real, it didn't start with Evan. Not really. It started years ago when she stopped laughing at my jokes. When she started rolling her eyes instead of asking me how my day went. When I'd reach for her hand in public and she'd pull it back, pretending not to notice, the affair, whatever that was just the final blow. The rest of it? It died slow. And I helped kill it by being too painfully passive, too forgiving, too focused on keeping the peace instead of asking if the peace was even worth keeping. Anyway, it was around week 4 that I got a message from my buddy Caleb. He didn't know I was gone. Nobody did except Jordan, the one who helped me load the truck back home. Caleb just thought I was off the grid for work. He sent a photo, no caption. It was her, my wife, sitting at a bar, across from Evan. It wasn't even subtle. Their hands were touching across the table. Her smile was wide, easy, relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in years. He looked at her like she was the only woman in the room. I just stared at the screen. My throat didn't close. My heart didn't drop. I just felt stupid. All that crying on the voicemail. All that talk about nothing happened and I never stopped loving you. And there she was, already playing house with the guy she swore was just a friend. I didn't even reply to Caleb. I powered the phone off and went inside Lester's garage and grabbed a paintbrush. I spent the next 4 hours repainting the back deck with him, like it was the only thing in the world that made sense, because at least wood doesn't lie to you, and when you cover up something ugly, it stays covered, unlike her. After that photo, something finally settled in my chest. Not peace, not relief, more like acceptance with teeth. The kind that bites down and doesn't let go. I stopped pretending there was anything left to save. Whatever version of my wife existed in my head, the real one was sitting in a bar, smiling at another man like I never mattered. I changed routines after that, different coffee place, different hours. I even shaved my beard, something I'd kept for years because she liked it. The face in the mirror looked unfamiliar, thinner somehow, but more awake. Like I'd been underwater and finally came up for air. Lungs burning, but working again. Then the mail started. Not emails, actual letters. Forwarded to a P.O. box I'd stupidly left connected to the old address. The first one was from her, handwritten, 6 pages, folded too many times. Like she couldn't stop opening and closing it while she wrote. I didn't read it all. I skimmed enough to catch the tone. Regret mixed with self-pity. A lot of, I didn't mean for it to happen, and you left without giving me a chance. She still didn't get it. She thought my disappearance was the betrayal, not the consequence. The second letter wasn't from her. It was from Evan's wife. That one I read twice. She didn't accuse me of anything, didn't yell, didn't threaten. She just asked if I knew how long it had been going on. She said she found hotel charges and deleted messages. And my name came up when she confronted Evan. Apparently, my wife told him I was emotionally unstable and on the verge of leaving anyway. According to her, I was already half gone. She just helped me finish the job. I laughed when I read that. A short, ugly laugh that surprised even me. Unstable. That was rich. I wrote Evan's wife back, kept it simple, told her the truth, told her how I found out, how I left, how my wife cried and lied, and then moved on without missing a beat. I didn't insult Evan. I didn't need to. Men like him do a fine job destroying their own image. A week later, she replied with 2 words. Thank you. That's when things started to spiral back home. Jordan called me one night, voice low, like he was reporting a death. Said my wife had shown up at the print shop looking for him. She was frantic. Said she hadn't heard from me in months. Claimed she was worried I'd hurt myself. Told people I was depressed, unstable, not thinking clearly. She was building a narrative where she was the scared, loyal wife, and I was the broken man who ran. That was the first time I felt real anger. Not explosive anger, focused anger. Because now she wasn't just cheating, she was rewriting me, turning me into a problem she survived. I booked a flight that night, one way, not back to her, back to the city. I wasn't going to see her. I wasn't going to argue or explain, but I wasn't going to let her control the ending either. I landed 2 days later, rented a car, and drove past my old house once. Her car was there. So was another one. Different. New. I didn't stop. Instead, I went straight to a lawyer's office I'd researched months ago, back when I still hoped I wouldn't need one. I sat down, slid the letters across the desk, and said, I want to file before she does. The lawyer nodded like he'd seen this story 100 times. Maybe he had. But this time, it wasn't going to end the way she planned. Filing for divorce didn't feel how I thought it would. There wasn't any sense of triumph. No sudden burst of freedom. Just a quiet weightlifting, like taking off a coat you didn't realize had been soaking wet for years. The lawyer walked me through the paperwork, asked all the standard questions, and I answered like I was reciting lines from a script I'd memorized too long ago. I kept my voice steady. No emotion, just facts. When we got to the part about assets, I gave him everything. What we had, what I took, what I left behind. He raised an eyebrow when he saw the cash withdrawals. I told him I wasn't hiding anything, just making sure I didn't get blindsided. He nodded, didn't push. The only moment that threw me was when he asked, "Do you want to file with cause?" What do you mean? You can cite adultery. Stronger position, legally, especially if she decides to contest anything. I stared at the pen in my hand. The words sat there like a challenge. Adultery. I hadn't said it out loud, not once. I'd lived it, breathed it, walked away from it. but I hadn't named it. Writing it down made it real. It made me feel like I wasn't just running from a bad marriage, but standing up to what she'd done. I signed the line. Cite adultery. After that, it moved fast. My lawyer filed that same day. Process server confirmed delivery 2 days later. According to him, she was shocked. Said she didn't expect me to take it that far. That far. Like marriage was a game, and I'd flipped the board over because I lost a few rounds. The next part caught me completely off guard. She tried to contact my mom, not me. Not Jordan. Not the lawyer. My mother. Now let me explain something. My mom doesn't play games. She's a 70-year-old woman with arthritis and a sharper memory than I'll ever have. She raised 3 kids by herself, survived cancer, and once told a pastor to be quiet during a sermon because he called divorce a sin. She called me the minute my ex-wife showed up. She came by the house, Mom said, crying, talking like she's in a soap opera. Said she misses you, wants to talk. I told her if she wanted to talk to you, she shouldn't have given her loyalty to someone else's husband. I nearly choked. You said that? You're right, I did. Then she said something I'll never forget. Curtis, you didn't disappear. You finally showed up for yourself. That hit hard. For years, I thought disappearing meant weakness. Like I ran because I couldn't handle the truth, but no. I disappeared because I was done being handled. Done being molded into something small enough to stay beside her while she built a second life right under my nose. She sent me one last email after that. Subject line, please. No body text, no apology, just the word. Like I owed her something. Like I was supposed to read her silence and come crawling back. I didn't reply. I just archived it and blocked the address. She made her choices. Now I was making mine, on my terms, in my name. For the first time in years, I wasn't playing a role in someone else's performance. I was writing my own ending. And this time, she didn't get a say in it. The day the divorce was finalized, I didn't celebrate. No drink, no phone calls, no dramatic sigh of relief. I just stood in the parking lot of the courthouse, staring at the traffic like something was supposed to change. Like the world should have felt lighter, but it didn't. It felt the same. Because closure isn't some magical feeling that shows up once a judge stamps a piece of paper. Closure's a decision you make over and over again until it sticks. That night, I went back to Charleston. Lester had kept the guest house open for me. I didn't ask him to, but I think he knew I wasn't done healing. He was like that, said almost nothing, but always had the right timing. The porch swing was still creaky. The fridge still made that low hum, and the air smelled like pine and ocean salt. I sat out there with a cup of black coffee, staring into nothing, thinking about everything. And that's when I saw it. Her name. Not on my phone, not in a letter. On Facebook. A mutual friend posted some photos. Nothing special. Just a birthday dinner at some overpriced rooftop spot back in Roanoke. But there she was, my ex-wife, smiling in the background, smiling next to Evan, arm around his waist, leaned in close. Like a couple that had been together for years. That's when the timeline hit me. It had been maybe 3 months since I walked out. 3 months since I vanished without yelling or throwing anything. And here she was, already public with the guy she swore meant nothing. Already living like the wreckage behind her didn't matter. Like I was just some chapter she could skim over. At first I felt that tightness in my chest again. That heat behind my eyes. I wanted to throw my phone, break something, scream into the night. But instead I laughed. Quiet, bitter, and low. Of course she was with him. That was always the plan. I was just the placeholder. The fallback until something more exciting gave her permission to leave. She didn't mourn me. She replaced me. And you know what? That was the moment I really let go. Not when I signed the papers, not when I moved out, not when I blocked her number. Right there on an old porch swing, with a cracked coffee mug and a stranger's Facebook post, I stopped being angry. I stopped hoping for an apology. I stopped replaying every second wondering what I missed, or how I let it get that bad. Because none of it was mine to carry anymore. She built the lie. She lived it. And now she could keep it. The next morning, I got in the car and drove down the coast with no map, no plan, and no destination. I stayed off highways, stuck to back roads, listened to old music I hadn't heard since college. Somewhere outside Savannah, I stopped at a diner, ordered a plate of eggs and bacon, and gave the waitress a fake name just because I could. For the first time in a long, long while, I wasn't anyone's husband. I wasn't someone's disappointment or backup plan. I wasn't the guy she used to be with. I was just a man in a booth, eating eggs, deciding where to go next. And that felt a whole lot like peace. 6 months after I left, I heard about the fallout. Not because I was looking for it, I wasn't. I'd built a new routine by then. New city. New job. Even picked up guitar again. Something I hadn't touched since before the marriage turned into a negotiation. I wasn't hiding anymore. I was just gone from that world. Ghosted it completely. But the past has a way of circling back when the timing's right. It was Jordan who told me. He texted me out of nowhere. "You're going to want to hear this." I called him from the parking lot of a hardware store, half expecting some random memory or update about a mutual friend. Instead, he said, "Evan left her." Just like that. No buildup, no warning. The guy she threw everything away for, the one she played house with in plain sight, bailed. According to Jordan, he packed up one morning and moved back to Knoxville. Didn't even give her a full explanation. Just said, "This wasn't what I thought it'd be," and walked out. She'd quit her job by then. Burned bridges trying to build a life with him. Word is, her old company didn't take her back. I asked, "You sure?" Jordan laughed. "Oh, I'm sure. She came back to town last week, staying with her sister. She looks different." I didn't ask what different meant. I didn't care. All I said was, "That's karma, man." Slow but precise. The truth is, I wasn't even angry anymore. I didn't need her to hurt. I didn't need her to lose. But watching the mess unravel the same way she unraveled our marriage, it hit different because that wasn't just karma. That was math. You build something on a lie, eventually it collapses every time. Meanwhile, my life was finally mine again. I'd started working for a small restoration company in Wilmington, fixing up storm-damaged homes. Hard work, honest work. I liked it. Something about repairing broken things made sense to me now. Plus, the guys on the crew didn't care where I came from. They just knew I showed up early and worked like mad. And then there was Rachel. I met her at a little bookstore downtown, of all places. She was arguing with the cashier about a misprinted price on a gardening book. Not yelling, just holding her ground, calm and sarcastic, in a way that caught me off guard. I stepped in, cracked a dumb joke. She laughed. And that was it. She didn't ask about my past, didn't push. She just talked to me like I wasn't broken. We started seeing each other. Slow. Easy. No pressure. For once, I didn't feel like I had to shrink to fit into someone's life. I just showed up, flaws and all, and she didn't flinch. That's the real ending, I guess. My ex got what she chased. A fantasy that fell apart the second it faced reality. And me? I got something better than revenge. I got to start over, no begging, no explaining, no crawling back. I walked away and built a life so full, I forgot to check if she was watching. And maybe she still tells people? I was unstable. Maybe she still cries about how I left. Let her. I'm not looking back. Before you head out, have you ever had to walk away to protect your peace? And what did that first day of freedom look like for you?